The Commonwealth of Nations is one of the strangest political associations in the world. It is not a country, not an empire, not a military alliance, and not a trade bloc in the usual sense. Yet it brings together 56 member states across nearly every region of the globe. Its members include vast countries like India, Canada, Australia, and Nigeria, as well as many small island states in the Caribbean and Pacific. What connects them is not a shared government, but a shared history, especially the legacy of the British Empire, along with the widespread use of English and long-standing legal, cultural, and diplomatic links. To understand the Commonwealth, you have to understand how an empire slowly turned into a voluntary association. The roots of the Commonwealth lie in the British Empire, which at its height controlled territories on every inhabited continent. But not all parts of the empire were governed in the same way. Some colonies were tightly controlled from London, while others, especially settler colonies such as Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, gradually gained more self-government. By the early 20th century, these self-governing territories were no longer simply colonies in the old sense. They made many of their own domestic decisions and expected to be treated with greater equality. This created a constitutional problem. How could they remain connected to Britain while also being recognized as autonomous political communities? A major turning point came at the Imperial Conference of 1926. There, the Balfour Declaration described Britain and the self-governing dominions as equal in status, united by a common allegiance to the Crown, but not subordinate to one another. This was a dramatic change in language. It suggested that the empire was no longer simply a hierarchy with Britain at the top. Instead, at least for the dominions, it was becoming a partnership of governments. The idea was still limited, because many colonies had not yet gained self-government. But the 1926 Declaration provided the intellectual foundation for what was then called the British Commonwealth of Nations. That new relationship was formalized in 1931 by the Statute of Westminster. This law confirmed that the dominions had legislative independence from the United Kingdom. In practical terms, it meant that Britain could no longer automatically make laws for these self-governing members without their consent. The statute did not instantly create the modern Commonwealth, but it marked a decisive step away from imperial control. The old empire was beginning to split into sovereign states that still wanted some kind of association. The Commonwealth therefore emerged not as a single founding moment, but as a gradual transformation shaped by constitutional change, political negotiation, and the pressures of nationalism. After the Second World War, decolonization accelerated. Across Asia, Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific, former colonies demanded independence. This raised a new question: if countries became independent, would they automatically leave the Commonwealth? The answer changed in 1949 with the London Declaration. India had become independent and wanted to remain in the association, but as a republic, not as a monarchy under the British Crown. The London Declaration allowed this by recognizing the British monarch as head of the Commonwealth rather than as the sovereign of every member. This was crucial. It transformed the Commonwealth from a club of countries tied to the Crown into a broader voluntary association of independent states. Today, the Commonwealth has 56 members, and most are former territories of the British Empire. But membership is not identical to former empire membership, and the association has evolved beyond its original shape. What members share most strongly is a network of historical connections. English is an important language of government, education, law, or diplomacy, legal traditions influenced by British institutions, and political systems shaped by parliamentary models. These connections can make cooperation easier, but they also carry the difficult memory of colonial rule. For many members, the Commonwealth is therefore both practical and symbolic, a way to use inherited links while also redefining them on more equal terms. One of the most important things to understand is that Commonwealth countries do not have legal obligations to one another simply because they are members. The Commonwealth cannot force a government to pass a law, join a war, or sign a trade agreement. It is not like the European Union, where members accept binding rules in certain areas. Instead, the Commonwealth works through consultation, cooperation, and shared norms. Its influence is often diplomatic rather than legal. Members may cooperate on development, education, election observation, legal reform, youth programs, and small state advocacy, but the system depends heavily on consent and political goodwill. The main intergovernmental institution is the Commonwealth Secretariat. Based in London, the Secretariat supports cooperation between member governments and helps organize major Commonwealth meetings. It can provide technical advice, coordinate programs, and promote shared goals across areas such as democracy, governance, economic development, and climate resilience. Alongside it is the Commonwealth Foundation, which focuses less on governments and more on civil society. That means it works with non-governmental groups, cultural organizations, professional networks, and community voices. In addition, many intergovernmental and civil organizations are officially recognized by the Secretariat, creating a wider Commonwealth ecosystem beyond state diplomacy. The Commonwealth also has a values framework. The Commonwealth Charter emphasizes democracy, human rights, the rule of law, freedom of expression, gender equality, sustainable development, and respect for diversity. These principles give the association a moral identity, even though enforcing them can be complicated. Because the Commonwealth is voluntary and non-binding, it often relies on pressure, suspension, criticism, and diplomatic engagement rather than hard sanctions. This creates a tension at the heart of the organization. It wants to stand for democratic values, but it includes very different countries with different political realities. Its power depends on persuasion more than command. The Commonwealth's most visible public event is the Commonwealth Games, held every 4 years. The Games bring together athletes from member countries and territories, giving the association a cultural and sporting identity that ordinary people can actually see. They are not just about medals. They symbolize the idea that the Commonwealth is a community with shared traditions and regular points of contact. For small states especially, the Games provide a major international platform. They also help keep the Commonwealth present in public life, because many of its other activities happen through diplomacy, policy meetings, or technical programs that rarely receive global attention. The role of the monarch is one of the most misunderstood parts of the Commonwealth. Charles III is head of the Commonwealth, but that does not mean he rules all 56 countries. He is king of 15 member states, known as the Commonwealth Realms, including the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and several Caribbean and Pacific countries. But 36 Commonwealth members are republics, and 5 have their own separate monarchs. The position of head of the Commonwealth is symbolic and is not technically hereditary, even though Charles became head after the death of Elizabeth II. The monarchy is therefore central to the Commonwealth's history, but not the basis of sovereignty for most members. Another defining feature of the Commonwealth is the number of small states within it. Small island developing states make up almost half of its membership. For these countries, the Commonwealth can be especially valuable because it offers a diplomatic platform they might struggle to build alone. Issues such as climate change, rising sea levels, trade vulnerability, disaster resilience, and access to international finance are central to their future. Through the Commonwealth, small states can coordinate, gain visibility, and push their concerns in global forums. This is one reason the organization remains relevant. It gives many smaller countries a collective voice in a world often dominated by larger powers. So what is the Commonwealth of Nations today? It is best understood as a voluntary network built from the remains of empire, reshaped by independence, and held together by language, history, institutions, diplomacy, and shared aspirations. It has no single army, no binding parliament, and no power to govern its members. But it does offer channels of cooperation, a platform for small and large states alike, and a symbolic attempt to turn a colonial past into a more equal association. Its importance depends not on legal force, but on whether members continue to find value in the connections it provides. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.